I've been a little bit doom and gloom about the upcoming season and patch, but there is a couple of changes that are coming that I'm very excited about. My baby Incinerate, we're getting a little bit of the damage back, but the really big change that has happened recently that wasn't included in the initial list of changes is that we are getting a stagger, which has a whole bunch of implications for this build. But I've been trying to make it work. Even when I heard about the damage buff, if you've tuned into the stream recently, you've definitely been seeing me suffer trying to make this really bad ability right now work. But I've, as you can tell, switched around a couple of abilities, and I think I found a really fun and interesting ability setup that I'm definitely going to be running next patch. As you can tell, we are running Flourish and Finish, and I also have Grasping Vines on there. I actually put on Grasping Vines for a different build, but I wanted to try it out for this build, and it's actually incredible at playing into the theme, which is being aggressive, and it allows us to finish kills. As you can see right there, you are actually able to use this ability through a lot of different animations, and mid-flesh, after draining the stamina of that opponent, he did have enough stamina for another dodge roll, but before my animation for my flesh even finished, we already had the Grasping Vines down and were able to finish off that kill. So Grasping Vines is definitely going to be something that I'm trying out on this as well, but we will talk about the build and all the changes that I've made at the end of the commentary here. But I got a couple of fights in an OPR, and actually had some really fun fights in on this setup. We are actually in a very dire situation, as we are getting chased by a couple of players and haven't been able to heal back, but we turned as we are back in a 1v1 now. Almost turn and burn and get the kill there on the opponent, but being that this is a blunderbuss and medium armor, this is definitely one of the tougher matchups, and I'm pretty sure I was dead there, but we actually don't go down. So just barely get away with our life, but not being able to burst and then that damage of the blunderbuss is a really tough setup to go for. But I try to go for the Incinerate, seeing that the opponent's out of stamina, and instead of them going in, which was the read I was trying to make, they actually just went for a Shrapnel Blast and shot me in the face while I was in that Incinerate animation. So very quickly getting reminded that it is a very high risk, high reward ability, and we actually just end up making the bad call there, but it's still a really fun fight. But the other thing about this build as well is how it feels in motion. Similar to the Tondo pillar setup, this is a very aggressive and very smooth ability setup here. We jump into the point on Sun while everybody's brawling. I try to go for a cheeky combo there with Flush, evade into a Flourish, and we actually missed the end of our Flourish there, but we slide out and get the finish there with the Fireball. Jump on to the Bowman that we see on top of the tower there, and he does a really good job of actually landing a riposte onto our Flourish there. But we're just going to go ahead and see if we can find any more opponents. Just literally dancing here. I get a finish with the damage over time from our Fireball there. Going for the Mage that I see here. Actually are able to follow through the Ice Shower with our Flourish and Finish. So that's what I mean by the build just feeling really good in motion. We're able to just continually keep up that aggression with Flourish and Finish, and Grasping Vines and Incinerate allow us to have that defensive utility that we were kind of missing by not having riposte on the build. But we pick up a quick little 4 kills here, and as is always my luck, although I should have realized this, we've just taken out quite a few opponents at Sun. We run into a spawn wave, and I'm getting chased by quite a few players, trying to make my way out here and just not finding a moment to be able to get my health back to full and reset the fight here. But it looks like a lot of the players have finally jumped off us here, and we get into another 1v1 here with a Great Axe, Great Sword player. Jumps in with the Skyfall and does manage to land the first hit on us. I go in for an Incinerate, but he does actually just barely space it out. Trying to trade back and forth, I go in for a Flourish and Finish, land a little bit of damage, and I'm able to find my potion and regenerate a little bit of health there. But doing a really good job of avoiding those guard point heavy attacks, winning those trades. He goes in for a Skyfall, and next patch that'll actually be a cancel if I'm not mistaken. but still trying to scrap back and forth here. We go in for the whirlwind. I actually go for the flourish right after the maelstrom, excuse me, to get that stagger, and we try to go in and land a bunch of damage back, but very, very back and forth fight here. In our rune, we land a very, very fat incinerate, pull back a bunch of damage, and with the fight getting turned back onto the back foot there, he does retreat. But yeah, I'm pretty sure next patch in situations like that, like bolt kick, sweep, skyfall, when we hit people with an incinerate, I'm pretty sure that'll actually just cancel the animation for their ability. But we jump back into the 1v1 with the opponent here. I miss the stagger, and he does land the skyfall, dodge the second hit of the stagger or the ability there, and we get very, very low, just barely make it out with our life there. And we go ahead and turn to see if we can find ourselves another opening. This is turning into be a pretty fun 1v1 right now. He goes for the detonate, but we flush through to avoid that and at least avoid getting blown up there, but doing a good job of spacing him out. And it looks like the he realizes that this is not a efficient time of stat padding, so he decides to kind of just leave the fight there. But really, really fun little 1v1 there. But going back to grasping vines a little bit, it is actually crazy how smooth you can use this ability with like through other animations. You're not necessarily canceling things, which you kind of are, but you're just able to use the ability as soon as you press it through a lot of things, which is very, very nice. We jump onto this player there, and just like that, through the stagger, right after the stagger from our flares there, I try to go for the grasping vines, catch him with just the end of it there, and able to keep up that aggression and find the kill. But we go in here for the next clip, we find our teammates, go in for the burnout, just land a kill on one of the teammates who is low. Go in for that grasping vines on the player who's charging that detonate, so a very, very strong counter to detonate as well. Not only offensively allowing us to continue our combos and finish off kills, but as you saw right there, very, very strong counter to detonate. So I'm really, really liking grasping vines, and definitely have to get it upgraded because I'm using the blue version of it right now. We find ourselves another 1v1 after a couple of these players kind of leave us alone with a medium armor spear bow player. We just need to make sure that we space out and don't get hit by any hard stuns. We avoid the volt kick there, and then manage to land the flourish stagger for a little bit of damage. We're doing a good job of winning the trades right now. We go in for an incinerate, and again, right now he's able to immediately go back in for another trade. But next patch we'll pretty much always be able to cast incinerate without punishing ourselves, which we pretty much do every time right now. But we generate a little bit of health. Again, I go in for the stagger, try to land a combo. It does a good job of avoiding a lot of our damage with the flush there. But I go in for an incinerate. We land it this time. I run myself out of stamina to go for that incinerate. He does find the kill on me, but we find the kill as well, as we still have a couple of dots up. Really, really fun 1v1 there. GG's to that point in there, but yeah, fun fights. The build is definitely feeling a lot better than the setups that I've been trying recently, but let's take a look at the changes that I've made. So as far as stats are concerned, we are still running the same setup, 150 dex, 150 con, and then everything else into intelligence. Taking a look at our gear, we did make a couple of changes, being that we are not running Tondo and not running Riposte, and I don't really like the perk for Flourish and Finish because it's not really that noticeable. I've thrown back on the invigorated headwear. The main priority with our gear here is refreshing. So we threw back on invigorated because it had refreshing on it already. Refreshing resilient chest piece, refreshing resilient gloves, shuriken energy, refreshing resilient, and then empowering incinerate, refreshing, and resilient, being that we are running incinerate again. Same thing for our weapons, so running that sacred wood saber and our fireball, thwarting strikes, and flame attunement fire staff. And then same thing with the jewelry as well. We haven't made any changes to our jewelry or weapon. Same amulet, purify, refreshing health. The featherweight ring giving us refreshing, hardy, and keen, and then refreshing toast and nimble on our earring. But yeah, the one other change I made is obviously grasping vines, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, there isn't really any super important perks aside from empowering incinerate that you really want to get on your gear. We have omnidirectional evade and fireball through our weapons. So aside from incinerate, anything else that you can fit on with your refreshing, so burnout or flesh or anything you want to put on there, aversion, freedom that you can fit would be or would work fine. Excuse me. But taking a look at the abilities, the I have made a couple of changes now. Flourish and Finish has been meta for quite a bit for the rapier, pretty much following the Brimstone patch. The worse that riposte got, and as the meta shifted, Flourish and Finish has been one of the better abilities for rapier to replace riposte with for quite a while. But if you've probably been watching for a while, you've noticed that I've been kind of hesitant to use it on builds, and even when I do, I don't really use it for that long. It's not that I'm that anti-meta, which I kind of am, but I don't like using things just for the sake of them being good or being the best. I really like having reasoning behind the things that I choose to use. And with the previous setup that I was running with the full grace setup and the old incinerate, burnout, and fireball, I felt like we just didn't have enough options to cover our defense. Riposte is an incredibly powerful defensive ability. Landing the stun aside and how broken the ability is, you can chain together a very long iframe when you combine your riposte with evade and your dodge rolls and everything else. And then there's a whole bunch of other things about this ability that I really like, but there wasn't any way for me to make up for all of that utility loss by switching to Flourish and Finish. So that's the reason why I didn't run it on this build and haven't really been running it on any other builds. But this setup with Incinerate getting a stagger next patch and the switch that I've made to Grasping Vines, this definitely feels like the setup that I'm finally going to end up using Flourish and Finish on, because as you saw in those earlier PvP clips, it is very clean to use with the rest of the kit. But as far as the changes that I've made, we're still using Evade, Momentum, Flush, Haste, Red Curtains, and then Controlled Breathing. And then on the Blood side, we are using Refreshing Strikes, On Guard, Flourish and Finish, all the way down to Swagger. We don't really need Fuel because we're not using Tondo, and then we picked up Light Edge for that extra DPS. And then taking a look at the Fire Staff, I actually made a change to this as well. I was running a different setup before, but this I feel like is probably going to be one of the strongest setups, at least for my playstyle next patch. We're able to pick up Rune of Helios and still manage to have Incinerate and Burnout. And as you saw in one of those clips, I really like Runes of Helios now. With the size of it, it makes it a lot easier to line it up with abilities. It was very difficult before with how small it was, but even with this patch, with how nerfed Incinerate is, you saw we were able to land an almost 3k Incinerate on somebody. So the changes that I've made is, in order to get Runes of Helios, you have to get pretty much every passive and all of Fireball. I didn't get Flare because I just don't like Flare, but everything aside from Flare to get Runes of Helios, and then we have just enough points left over to get Pyromania, and then all of Incinerate and Burnout. So yeah, this is the setup that I'm going to be running next patch with Incinerate. I'm actually pretty happy about the fact that I've found this ability setup, because we have quite a few ways to run this build now. It is definitely the build that I put the most time into and has the most options in utility. We are running that 2-hit evade setup with the full refreshing, but we have the pillar setup now with Tondo and pillar, and then now having this flourish and finish and incinerate with that new incinerate is going to be very fun to use. And then you can still use riposte in place of flourish and finish or Tondo with either of the abilities, whether that's pillar of fire or incinerate. But yeah, I don't want to blabber on too long. I'm pretty sure I haven't missed anything. If I did, please let me know in the comments. But as always, thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.